Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Kagurabachi have brought to light just how balls to the wall shonen combat can be. While JJK focuses on frantic hand-to-hand combat with powers that further amplify what's being shown, and Chainsaw Man brings in the cinematic appeal of raw, gritty western movies, Kagurabachi has long since cemented itself into one thing, overwhelmingly so: perspective. When the series began its serialization, Kagurabachi Brazil explained in great detail just how Hokuzono utilizes the basic fundamentals and even more advanced techniques of cinematography. From overhead shoulder shots to bird eye, first eye person viewpoints, and even the now cult classic fish eye lens. And with this chapter, not only does he continue that trend in unbelievable marks of quality, some of these shots feel so absurdly beautiful that I dare say they're one of a kind in their camera work. Every artist is inspired by someone before them, and while Hokuzono has sung the praises of John Wick and Stahelski, I believe these praises extend as far as the Matrix franchise, for they hold home to some of the most unique and experimental camera work in cinema history. And you know, Keanu Reeves is there too. Now, knowing Hokuzono studies and takes notes from Lily Wachowski's books, I ended up rereading some Kagurabachi scenes and oh, nope, it's everywhere. Before I move on, this week's author comment confirms that Hokuzono has now watched the Raise movie. Artists being inspired by a great piece of cinema is nothing short of the usual, and so I expect to see some similar influences in the upcoming, let's just say 20 to 25 chapters. What that means can depend vastly on the context that he wants to use those inspirations in, but my immediate guess would be something related to camera work. And while I can't immediately say, oh my god, it's just like the movie, the empty office building in this chapter bursting into flames reminds me of a very specific cut in the Raise film where the exact same thing happens. Coincidence? Probably. Onto the chapter itself, Yura's eyes turning back indeed was a drawing error. Good job me for figuring that one out. However, this chapter has very clear indication regarding Yura's eyes, so you know what, let's start there. Bingo Artispheria made a fantastic video covering how the Enten and the Magatsumi exist as counterparts to one another. Yet this chapter almost leads you to believe that instead of the Enten, it might actually be the Tobimune. While the flower blade absorbs all in service of one person, the Tobimune is a selfless hero who, while also considering its wielder, has universal mercy for all, even things not alive. The restoration running counter to the Shinuchi's possession and life-sucking ability feels like a very intentional direction by Hokuzono, which then forces the reader to reframe the Enten's purpose in all of this. Not so much as a foil to the Shinuchi, but what I see as more of a harbinger of destruction for something that must not exist. Even then though, Chihiro teaches Yura about what it is that the enchanted blades were meant for, and while we're definitely getting closer, and while he's now intentionally avoiding the words protection or safeguarding, rather using omonjiru, one of respect and reverence, he's still tiptoeing around the fact that katana are meant to kill. You can't really run loops on philosophy and moral obligation when the guy is wielding a weapon in the way that it should be. Again, we saw this with Shoujo, and the realization Chihiro has was that his views are equally as valid, but that he must die anyway. This is also where I realized that Kunishige only started harboring ill will against the Magatsumi after its malediction. The blade, as this chapter states, is one that meddles with life itself. In short, like chapter 83 once already stated, every blade is built with an intended purpose in mind. The Shinuchi, by all means, was made as, given as, and treated as the ultimate murder weapon, one that Kunishige seemingly had close to zero problems with until its ruthless genocide. It makes the regret feel all the more grounded and deserved because the writings were on the wall. He just chose to ignore them, for like Chihiro says, it's all in order to honor the people. But I can't badmouth the protagonist too much. After all, flaws and faults are what make a great character. Ever since Chihiro got Samura on his side, he's acted more sacrificial than he had been prior. Every power in the series has incredible symbolic and thematic depth, and here we see what the Suzaku really means to a person like Chihiro. It's an outlet to constantly endanger oneself, taking in the pain while also not being in mortal danger because of it. It's as if enabling an even more reckless, gamble kind of playstyle, all because of trust and belief. And while that's beautiful and poetic that Chihiro's finally opened Samura's eyes to just how useful his existence can be, and how that enables him to share his burden with someone of equal strength, a good man once said, "Your suffering isn't noble, it's just suffering." Clashes are emblematic of two sides that collide. Enten Uragumo, Enten Tobimune. And now, Yura and Chihiro. That trademark paneling of two sides against one another. Yet notice how this chapter isn't called Enten versus Magatsumi. Anyone want to take a wild guess why that could be? I'm expecting you to be writing in the comments right now as we speak. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, too slow. Because things are far from over. Even as Yura gets blown to literal bits by the Suzaku's engulfing flames, you should know better. When Yura said we're just getting started, then God, you best believe we're just getting started. We haven't even seen him unleash a malediction yet. And if my theory is to be believed as true, the condition to set it off is the prior use of all 3 abilities. We now have the dragonfly, we now have the centipede, and of course, we now have this beautiful page of the spider. Just like last chapter, this one has even stronger implications on civilian safety, and while Shiba is doing his utmost, we are really cutting it close to civilian endangerment. So much so that Samura acknowledges it himself too. But hey, look, another anti-Cloud Gouger squad reference. God, this series is good, huh? And speak of Shiba, the guy deserves some praise. Last week, I was a little harsh on his lack of offensive assistance, and I get it. These enchanted blades are in a realm of their own. At the same time, Shiba is in a realm of his own in the world of sorcery. And I think Hokuzono has genuinely found the perfect middle ground. Not too strong that he makes it a 3v1, but not too weak either to not make a difference. Being able to keep up with what I assume to be way faster than MTL, Kagurabachi's inverse scaling has most definitely surpassed that of Jujutsu Kaisen or My Hero Academia. But you can take that up with the power scalers, for I am not one. At least not religiously. Azami was portrayed as the peak of the Kaminabi, putting to place the traitorous leader himself and being matched up against Yura and holding his own. Yet when the Shinuchi turned on, reality became abundantly clear. Shiba is not taking any chances, but even then, Hokuzono's long since teased the massive importance Shiba will have to play, and for that to happen, we need to see more than just teleportation and evacuation. And you know what? Let's make Kagurabachi parallels a weekly segment, but only from now on. To avoid irrelevant chit-chat, I'll make it a quick fire round. Many people considered EI White Purity to be an allegory for loading and shooting a gun, but with this chapter, Magatsumi becomes the definition of a gun allegory, holding both Samura and Chihiro at point blank, even shot from a first-person perspective. Samura hearing Shiba's movements is very reminiscent of the time when Samura heard Chihiro's gulp. Using this aspect as a part of the paneling and to convey information is incredibly clever. I can't help but think that the choice of a train is also very intentional. And if we take it a step further, it could just as well be a reference to David Leitch's bullet train. And on a more personal note, Chihiro uses a thrust attack. This form is very one-dimensional and relies greatly on weight, but that same weight signifies both trust in its functionality and the symbolic meaning of carrying everything on oneself. Sengoku was a big part of Hirohiko's character, but I did not expect to see him reflected in Chihiro. While it's still not Subaru, I'm not as mad this time, because this chapter is what pure show. No. This chapter is what real cinema looks like. And God, I cannot wait for this to be animated.